The Galaxy Council panics as humanity cuts off all diplomacy part. The great chamber of the galactic conquered hummed with uneasy energy. High above the green-blue swirl of Viridia Prime, inside a dome of transparent alloy, over 200 species watched the same screen. The message had come in just hours before, short and sharp like a slap across the face of diplomacy. It was from Sol System, from Earth, from humanity, and it said only this: humanity is withdrawing from interstellar affairs effective immediately. No warning. No explanation. Just silence after that. Every human embassy across the galaxy had gone dark. Subspace channels once buzzing with trade talks, cultural exchanges, and minor disputes now echoed with static. Even the small human outposts on Mars and Titan stopped responding. It was as if an entire species had pulled a curtain shut around itself and walked away. Ambassador Lyra Vaughn of the Cathari stood at her station, her 6 slender limbs trembling slightly. The Cathari were insectoid, tall and graceful, with eyes that saw in ultraviolet. She had spent 15 cycles building a friendship with Earth's envoy, a quiet man named Marcus Bell. They had shared meals, debated philosophy, and once even watched a human film about a dog who saved a town. Now his comm badge was silent. His last message to her had been a simple "Goodbye, Lyra." Nothing more. Around her, voices rose in confusion and anger. The Dravic delegate, broad-shouldered and armored in black carapace, slammed a fist on his console. "This is an act of war," he growled. "They cut us off without reason. They must be hiding something." "No," said Elder Myron of the Myron Collective, their gelatinous form pulsing gently in its fluid pod. "Humans do not act without cause. They are impulsive, yes, but not cruel without purpose. Something has frightened them." Counselor Elon Tross of the Varelians, a calm species known for mediation, raised a webbed hand. "We must not assume the worst. Perhaps it is internal. A political shift. A crisis on Earth, but deep down even Elon felt doubt. Humanity had always been loud, curious, and eager to join. They had only entered the Conquered 70 years ago, yet they had already changed everything. Their ships were faster, their computers smarter, their medicine more precise. They asked endless questions, offered strange gifts like chocolate and jazz music, and never seemed to understand the old galactic rules of caution and hierarchy. Now, just as they were beginning to find their place, they vanished. On Earth, the sun rose over Washington, D.C., casting long shadows across the National Mall. Inside the White House Situation Room, President Daniel Carter stood before a wall of screens showing reactions from across the galaxy. His face was tired but resolute. He had made the call late the night before, after reading the final intelligence report from Luna Command. For months, strange signals had been detected near the edge of known space. Not natural, not random. They pulsed in patterns that matched no known civilization. Worse, they seemed to mimic human communication protocols, old ones from decades past. At first, scientists thought it was a glitch, then a hoax, then, terrifyingly, a probe. Carter had convened Earth's top minds, military, scientific, ethical. They debated for weeks. Some argued for full disclosure to the conquered. Others warned that panic would spread faster than truth. In the end, the decision was simple. If something out there was learning to speak like humanity, the safest thing was to stop speaking altogether. Now, standing before the United Nations General Assembly, Carter addressed not just Earth but any listening ears beyond it. His voice was calm, steady. "For 70 years we reached out. We shared our knowledge, our culture, our hopes. We believed in unity among the stars. But unity requires trust, and trust requires safety. Recent events have shown us that our presence in the galactic community may now pose a risk, not just to us, but to others. Therefore, effective immediately, all human diplomatic, commercial, and communication links with extraterrestrial entities are suspended. All non-human personnel must depart Sol System within 72 hours. This is not a declaration of hostility. It is an act of responsibility." The room was silent. Delegates from every nation stared at him, some in shock, others in fear. Outside, news drones zipped through the sky, broadcasting his words to billions. In Tokyo, a schoolteacher paused her lesson. In Nairobi, a farmer looked up from his field. In Buenos Aires, a teenager muted her music and listened. Back on Mars, in the red dust of Olympus Mons base, engineer Lena Ortiz stood before the quantum entanglement relay array. the heart of Earth's real-time communication with the stars. The machine was a marvel, a lattice of silver rings humming with blue light. It allowed instant messaging across light years, something no other species had fully mastered. Humans had even lent the design to the Myran, who used it to coordinate their vast library network. Lena's fingers hovered over the control panel. Her assistant, a young man named Eli, stood beside her, eyes wide. "Do we really have to?" he asked softly. She didn't answer right away. She thought of the messages she'd helped send: birthday greetings to alien children, emergency aid requests during the Zorathi floods, even a recipe for apple pie sent to a curious Dravik chef. All of it gone. "Yes," she said finally. "We do." She entered the command. The rings dimmed. The blue light faded. One by one, the quantum links collapsed into silence. The last thing the array transmitted was a single pulse, a farewell coded in the old Earth standard. Then nothing. On Viridia Prime, the Concorde's emergency session stretched into its third hour. Panic was spreading. Trade ministers worried about supply chains. Military advisors feared a human-first strike. Cultural liaisons mourned lost friendships. Even the usually unflappable Virelians seemed shaken. Then a new alert flashed on every screen. A human vessel, the freighter Odyssey Dawn, had just powered down its engines near the Sol border. It sent no distress call. No explanation. It simply stopped, drifting in the void like a stone. Counselor Tross leaned forward. "Send a message. Ask what is happening." The reply came seconds later, automated and cold. "All human assets are entering standby mode. No further communication will be acknowledged." That was it. No room for negotiation. No chance for dialogue. Humanity had closed its door. In Geneva, Marcus Bell packed his few belongings in his small apartment. Photos of alien cities lined his walls. Crystalline towers of Myran space, floating gardens of the Zorathi homeworld, the neon canyons of Dravik Prime. He took them down one by one, placing them in a box. He didn't know when or if he'd see those places again. Outside his window, the first alien ships began to leave. Sleek diplomatic cruisers, bulky cargo haulers, even a tiny scout pod from the insect-like Cathari. They lifted off from Geneva Spaceport, their engines glowing against the evening sky. Each departure felt like a piece of the world vanishing. Marcus sat on his bed, holding a small carved stone Lyra had given him, a Cathari symbol for enduring friendship. He wondered if she'd understand. He hoped she would. Far above, in the silent dark between stars, Earth's last message hung like a ghost. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, felt truly alone. The Galaxy Council panics as humanity cuts off. All diplomacy part. 6 months had passed since humanity fell silent, and the galaxy felt the weight of that silence like a stone in its chest. Trade routes that once hummed with human-made freighters now lay empty. Markets on Viridia Prime and Cygnus Station saw prices rise as goods once common. Human-engineered medicines, AI-driven navigation chips, even synthetic fabrics, became scarce. The Concord had tried to adapt, but no other species had matched human speed, efficiency, or creativity. Without Earth's support systems, the galactic economy wobbled like a child learning to walk. The Dravik Empire, always quick to suspect betrayal, sent warships to patrol the edges of human space. They claimed it was for security, but everyone knew they hoped to find evidence of secret weapons or hidden bases. Instead, they found nothing. Human outposts stood dark and empty. Automated defense drones powered down when approached. Even the massive orbital shipyards near Jupiter floated in eerie stillness, their cranes frozen mid-swing. Back on Viridia Prime, the Concorde's emergency sessions never truly ended. Counselor Elon Tross grew weary of the same arguments. The Dravik demanded action. The Myran pleaded for patience. The Zorathi, once close allies of Earth, wept openly in the chamber, their smooth blue skin dimming with grief. They had lost more than trade. They had lost friends. Meanwhile, on Mars, life continued under red skies. Lena Ortiz now worked in a sealed lab beneath the surface, far from the relay array she had shut down. She no longer spoke to aliens. She no longer checked the stars for signals. Instead, she helped calibrate sensors for Project Aegis, a name only a few hundred people on Earth and Mars even knew. The project was hidden deep in the lunar crust, shielded by layers of rock and deception. Its purpose was not to attack, but to hide. to make Sol's system invisible to anything watching from the dark. Lena didn't know all the details, but she knew enough. Something out there was listening, and humanity had decided the best way to protect itself, and maybe others, was to disappear. On Earth, cities adapted quickly. Without alien imports, factories retooled. Farmers grew new crops. Schools taught children how to build, not just buy. President Daniel Carter gave weekly addresses, calm and steady, reminding people that this was temporary. "We are not hiding forever," he said once. "We are waiting, watching, preparing." But not everyone agreed with the silence. In Rio de Janeiro, protests grew. In Mumbai, hackers tried to reboot old comms relays, hoping to reach out. In Berlin, a group of scientists published an open letter begging the government to reconsider. "Isolation is not safety," they wrote. "It is surrender." Yet the order held. No signals left Sol system. No ships departed. Humanity turned inward, like a turtle pulling into its shell. The real crisis began when the nanites failed. Human medical nanites had been shared freely during the Great Plague of 2187. They healed wounds, fought infections, even repaired aging cells. Dozens of species used them, especially the fragile, short-lived Cathari. But the nanites required monthly updates from human servers to stay effective. Without those updates, they began to degrade. On the Cathari homeworld, elders started falling ill. Young ones developed fevers that wouldn't break. Ambassador Lyra Vaughn sent message after message through old emergency channels, but all bounced back unread. Desperate, she traveled to the edge of human space in a small shuttle, hoping someone would answer. She hovered near the abandoned Mars relay station for 3 days. No response came. When she returned to Viridia Prime, she stood before the Conquered with tears glistening on her compound eyes. "They saved us once," she said, her voice trembling. "Now they leave us to die." "I do not understand," her words shook the chamber. For the first time, doubt turned to fear. What if humanity wasn't just withdrawing? What if they were abandoning the galaxy to something worse? Then came the incident near Cygnus. A Dravik patrol ship spotted a derelict human freighter drifting near a mining colony. The ship, the Odyssey Dawn, had gone dark months ago. The Dravik captain ordered a boarding party to claim it, standard salvage rights. But the moment their boots touched the hull, the freighter's dormant systems flared to life. Security drones emerged from hidden panels. Warning lights flashed in human script. And then, without firing a shot, the ship emitted a low-frequency pulse that fried the Dravik vessel's core systems. The patrol ship drifted, powerless, for 2 days before rescue arrived. No one was hurt, but the message was clear: do not touch what is ours. The Dravik called it an act of aggression. The Myran called it self-defense. The truth was simpler. Human tech was built to protect itself when abandoned. But in a galaxy already nervous, it felt like a threat. Counselor Tross finally proposed a new plan. "We must speak to them," he said. "Not through channels, not through demands, but through someone they trust." The Conquered debated for hours. Who could reach Earth? Who would even be allowed in? Then someone remembered Paul Dawson. Paul had been Earth's lead linguist during the early Conquered years. He spoke over 30 alien dialects and had helped draft the first universal contact protocols. But he'd retired 5 years ago after a personal loss, vanishing to a quiet habitat on Titan. He was old, quiet and famously stubborn, but he was also one of the few humans the Conquered still respected. Small Varelian shuttle was dispatched to Titan. They found Paul tending hydroponic gardens in a dome overlooking methane lakes. He listened to their request in silence, his hands stained with soil. "I haven't spoken to Earth Command in years," he said. "But you understand them," Tross replied through a translator. "And they might listen to you." Paul looked at the stars. He thought of his daughter, who had died during a failed peace mission to the Dravik border. He thought of the friends he'd made among the stars, and the silence that had swallowed them all. "Only if I can speak directly to Carter," he said at last. "No intermediaries, no recordings," the Conquered agreed. While Paul prepared for his journey, something strange happened in the outer rim. A faint signal burst through the static, a human signal using old encryption from before the cutoff. It lasted only 12 seconds. It carried coordinates deep in the Oort cloud, and a countdown, 180 days. No one knew what it meant. Was it a trap? A warning? A final goodbye? The Concord's fear turned to dread. On Earth, General Nina Ruiz reviewed the countdown in a secure bunker beneath the Rockies. She showed it to President Carter. "They found the beacon," she said. Carter nodded. "Then they'll come looking. Should we warn them?" He was quiet for a long time. "Not yet. Let them wonder. Wonder keeps them cautious. Caution keeps them alive." Above them, the sky remained empty of alien ships. Below, in labs and shipyards and quiet homes, humanity waited. They had chosen silence not out of pride, but out of fear, for themselves and for everyone else. And now the galaxy would have to decide whether to trust that silence or break it. The Galaxy Council panics as humanity cuts off all diplomacy. Part 3. The Varelian shuttle moved quietly through the void, its engines humming at the lowest possible setting. Inside, Paul Dawson sat alone, staring at the small window. Stars passed like silent watchers. He hadn't left Titan in years. The last time he'd seen Earth, it was from orbit, watching clouds swirl over the Pacific. Now he was going back not as a diplomat, but as a messenger, and maybe a ghost from a time the galaxy thought was gone. The Conquered had given him one chance. One ship, one request. No weapons, no recording devices. Just him, his old credentials, and a single data chip containing the strange signal from the Oort cloud. They hoped Earth would let him land. They weren't sure. As the shuttle neared the edge of Sol system, alarms blinked softly. Human defense satellites powered up, their lenses turning toward the intruder. Paul held his breath. He sent the old clearance code, the one he'd used during the first contact accords. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then a voice crackled over the comm, human and calm. "Shuttle Varel 7, this is Sol Defense. State your purpose." Paul leaned forward. "This is Paul Dawson, former Earth Linguistics Corps. I'm here to speak with President Carter. On behalf of the Galactic Conquered." Silence. "Then stand by." Minutes passed. Paul watched as a small Earth vessel detached from a hidden station near the asteroid belt. It matched speed with his shuttle, sleek and gray, no markings. A boarding tube extended. Two figures in plain uniforms floated in. They scanned him, checked his biometrics, and said nothing. One handed him a blindfold. Paul didn't resist. He knew the rules. Trust had to be earned, especially now. When the blindfold came off, he was in a quiet room deep underground. Soft lights, no windows. A single table. Across from him sat President Daniel Carter, looking older than Paul remembered, with lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Paul," Carter said, standing, "I thought you'd stay on Titan forever." "I almost did," Paul replied. "But the galaxy is falling apart without you." Carter gestured for him to sit. "We didn't leave because we wanted to. We left because we had to." Before Paul could ask why, the door opened again. A woman in a dark uniform entered. General Nina Ruiz, head of Earth's Unified Defense Command. She placed a small device on the table. It glowed faintly blue. "That's a dampener," she said. "Blocks all outside signals. What we say here stays here." Paul nodded. He'd seen such things before. "The Conquered is scared. Trade is failing. Medical systems are breaking. The Cathari are dying because their nanites stopped working. The Dravik think you're building a superweapon. And now this signal, this countdown, has everyone terrified. They think you're planning something." Carter exchanged a look with Ruiz, then he leaned forward. "We detected something 6 months ago, far beyond the galactic rim. A signal that wasn't natural. It repeated human communication patterns, old ones from our early space era. At first we thought it was a glitch. Then it started mimicking other species too. Miran syntax, Dravik encryption, Zorathi harmonic tones." Paul frowned. "A mimic?" "Worse," Ruiz said. "It learns, it copies, and once it copies a civilization's tech, it uses that tech to get closer. We found wreckage near Proxima, ships that looked human but weren't. Inside, no crew. Just strange organic circuitry that pulsed like a heartbeat." Paul felt a chill. "You think it's alive?" "We think it's a swarm," Carter said. "An ancient one. It moves from system to system, studying, copying, then consuming. We call it the Silent Devourer. And it's heading this way." Paul sat back, stunned. "Why didn't you tell the Concord?" "Because telling them would have spread panic," Ruiz said. "And panic draws attention. This thing, it listens. It watches. The more noise a civilization makes, the more signals, the more ships, the more chatter, the faster it finds them. We shut down everything to make Sol system look dead, like a rock. Not a home, Paul understood now. The silence wasn't rejection. It was camouflage. But the signal in the Oort cloud, he said. The countdown. That's a warning buoy, Carter explained. Placed by a dead race thousands of years ago. It activates when the Devourer is within range. 180 days is how long we have before it reaches the inner galaxy. Paul's mind raced. The Conquered needs to know. They can't know everything, Ruiz said firmly. Not yet. If every species starts broadcasting fear, upgrading weapons, sending scouts, it'll be like ringing a dinner bell. We need them quiet still, hidden, but how? Paul asked. They won't listen to silence. They need proof. Carter looked at him. That's why you're here. You're the only one they might believe, and the only one we trust to carry the truth without screaming it. He slid a small drive across the table. This contains the Aegis protocol. It's a resonance field design. Low energy, wide coverage. If every Concord world builds one, they can mask their tech signatures just like we're doing. But they have to do it together. And they have to stay silent while they build it. Paul picked up the drive. It felt heavier than it looked. They'll ask why Earth didn't share this sooner. Tell them we were afraid, Carter said simply. Afraid they wouldn't believe us. Afraid they'd act rashly. Afraid we'd bring the Devourer down on them by speaking too soon. Paul nodded slowly. He saw the weight in their eyes, not arrogance, but sorrow. They had carried this alone for months, watching the galaxy suffer, unable to explain why. I'll do it, he said. But I need one thing. Name it. Let me speak to Marcus Bell. He's still on Earth, isn't he? Carter smiled faintly. He's in Geneva, packing up the last embassy files. He refused to leave until every alien artifact was cataloged and stored. Good, Paul said. He knows the Conquered better than anyone. He can help me convince them. Ruiz stood. You leave in 6 hours. We'll give you a clean ship. No tracking, no tags, just you and the truth. As Paul rose to go, Carter stopped him. If they don't listen, if they choose to fight instead of hide, then they'll light up the sky, Paul finished. And the Devourer will come faster. Carter nodded. We're not trying to save just ourselves, Paul. We're trying to save everyone. Outside, the Earth sky was pale with dawn. Paul boarded the small vessel, the drive secure in his pocket. As the ship lifted off, he looked down at the green and blue world below. It looked peaceful, quiet. But beneath that calm was a storm of fear, sacrifice, and hope. Back on Viridia Prime, the Conquered waited. They had seen Paul's ship leave Titan. They had tracked its path to Sol. Now, they watched it return, moving faster than before, as if carrying fire. When Paul stepped onto the council floor 3 days later, every eye turned to him. He didn't bow. He didn't smile. He simply held up the drive. Humanity didn't abandon you, he said, his voice clear and strong. They were trying to protect you, and they still are. He told them everything, the signal, the mimic, the countdown, the Aegis protocol. Some delegates scoffed. Others wept. The Dravik demanded proof. The Myran asked for data. The Cathari simply listened, their eyes wide with understanding. Paul didn't argue. He just said, build the shield. Stay quiet, and trust that sometimes silence is the loudest warning of all. Then he walked out, leaving the drive on the central podium. The fate of the galaxy now rested not on weapons or war, but on whether they could learn to be still. The Galaxy Council panics as humanity cuts off all diplomacy. Part 5. The countdown reached 0. Across the galaxy, every world holding an Aegis field held its breath. On Viridia Prime, the Conquered chamber was empty except for a few silent observers. On Mars, Lena Ortiz watched the deep space monitors, her hands steady on the console. In a bunker beneath the Rockies, President Daniel Carter stood beside General Nina Ruiz, eyes fixed on a single red line that had not moved in hours. Outside, the stars looked the same. No explosions. No alien armadas. No monstrous swarm tearing through the void. Just quiet. But the sensors told another story. Something had passed through the outer rim. Something vast and slow, made of shifting metal and strange biology that bent light around it. It had lingered near the ruins of the Free Stars Alliance, scanning, probing. Then it moved inward, toward the heart of the Conquered, and stopped. For 3 full days, it hovered at the edge of detectable space. It sent out pulses, soft and searching like fingers tapping in the dark. But every world it reached gave back only silence. No replies, no signals, No heat blooms from engines or cities. Just cold rock, dead calms, and the hum of empty space. On the Dravik test moon, Marcus Bell watched the readouts with a group of engineers. One of them, a young Dravik named Kor, whispered, "It's confused." "Yes," Marcus said. "Because we're not here." The Devourer waited. It tried again, this time mimicking a Myran distress call. Then a Zarathi song, then chillingly a human voice saying, "This is Earth Central. Please respond." No one answered. Not even Earth. Deep in the lunar base, Carter gave a small nod. Ruiz exhaled for the first time in hours. The plan was working. After 7 days of silence from the galaxy, the Devourer turned away. It drifted back toward the rim, slower now, as if disappointed. The sensors tracked it until it vanished beyond the edge of known space. It was gone, not destroyed. Not defeated, just a relief washed over the conquered like a tide. But it was a quiet relief. No celebrations. No broadcasts. They knew better now. Joy could be loud, and loud things could be found. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to speak again, but only in whispers. Emergency channels reopened with strict limits. Medical updates for nanites were sent in short-coded bursts. Trade resumed, but only for essentials and only through shielded routes. The Aegis field stayed active not as a temporary measure, but as a new way of life. Humanity did not return to the conquered right away. But they sent one message, unencrypted and open to all. We are still here. We always were. On Viridia Prime, Lyra Vaughn received a small package. Inside was a new batch of nanite updates and a note from Lena Ortiz. For your elders. Stay well. Lyra held the vial in her many hands and wept. Marcus Bell stayed on Varel for a while longer, helping refine the Aegis designs. He visited the Cathari delegation often. One evening, Lyra gave him back the stone carving he'd left behind in Geneva. "You forgot it," she said. "But I knew you'd come back." He smiled. "I never really left." Back on Earth, children played in parks under dimmed streetlights. Factories hummed with purpose, not panic. Schools taught not just science and history, but silence, how to listen, how to wait, how to protect without fighting. Paul Dawson returned to Titan. His garden thrived. He planted new seeds, ones that glowed softly in the methane dusk. He didn't look at the stars as much anymore. He didn't need to. He knew what was out there and what was worth protecting here. Months passed. The Devourer did not return. Scouts sent to the rim found only cold wreckage and strange echoes in the data. Whatever it was, it had moved on, seeking louder prey in darker corners of the universe. The conquered changed. They no longer measured strength by fleet size or weapon yield. They measured it by restraint, by patience, by the courage to stay quiet when the universe screamed for attention. Earth remained mostly closed, but not alone. Small scientific exchanges began. Human engineers visiting Myran labs, Sarathi healers studying Earth medicine, even Dravik tacticians sharing defense strategies, all under strict silence protocols. One day, a human ship left Sol system for the first time in over a year. It carried no weapons, no diplomats, just a cargo of seeds, books, and medical supplies for the Cathari. It flew slow, its engines muffled, its signature masked by Aegis. When it arrived, Lyra met it personally. She didn't speak. She just placed a hand on the hull and bowed her head. The galaxy had learned a new language, not of words or signals, but of stillness. And in that stillness, trust grew, not the loud, eager trust of first contact, not the blind faith of old alliances, but something deeper, something earned in the dark, when no one was watching and everyone chose to protect rather than conquer. On a quiet night in Geneva, Marcus stood on the roof of the old embassy. The city below was calm. The sky above was full of stars, each one a world holding its breath, then slowly learning to breathe again. He thought of Earth, of Mars, of Titan, of friends scattered across the void. Humanity hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They had simply taught it how to hide. And in doing so, they had saved it. The stars remained silent. But now, that silence meant something new. It meant they were all still here, together, watching, waiting, safe.